Good evening. It's 6:30, and I'd like to call the Guilford Select Board meeting to order of December 28th. Please mute when you're not speaking. Thank you. As chair of the Guilford Select Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by Governor Scott as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and pursuant to Addendum 6 to Executive Order 01-20 and Act 92, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. In accordance with Act 92, there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting. However, in accordance with the temporary amendments to the open meeting law, I confirm the following. Number one, we are providing public access to the meeting via video conferencing with additional access offered through a telephone. We are using Google Meet for this remote meeting. All members of the Guilford Select Board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen, and if desired, participate in this meeting by joining the meeting and going to https://meet.google.com/NHO-JKZC-ETJ, or by calling the following number, 617-675-4444, and putting in the PIN as follows, 364-536-869-2597#. And two, we are providing public access notice of instructions for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, including how to access the meeting using the telephone and video conferencing, and we've also put it on our website at guilfordvt.net. Three, we are providing a mechanism to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem, please telephone 603-558-0891. And lastly, by continuing the meeting if necessary, in the event the public is unable to access this meeting, it will be continued to a time and place certain. Please note that all votes taken during this remote meeting are by roll call. And onward, we'd like to recognize our public. Who would like to introduce themselves? Public?
Hi, I'm Karen Murphy, if you can hear me.
Hi, Karen. Welcome.
Yeah.
Who else is there?
Sheila Morse.
Hi, Sheila. Welcome.
Finance Advisory Committee. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Wendy. You're on mute. And I don't see anyone else. So we can.
Leslie.
Oh, Leslie, I'm sorry. I just think you're with us all the time.
I am. Stalking you guys.
Okay, so the rules of procedure, there are rules that govern the interaction of the public with the select board. Peter has those rules on his desk, and if there's any question, we can just turn to Peter for how to proceed in regard to the rules. Basically, the rules are emphasize civil discourse. So that's what we expect of the interaction between the select board and the public. Are there any additions to our agenda this evening?
I have none, Richard.
I have none as well. Are there any changes to the agenda order?
Yes, I have one. Due to actions by the select board at their emergency meeting last week, there will be no warrants for this select board meeting.
Thank you, Peter. Are there the minutes? I'm assuming that our select board has read the minutes, and I'm looking for a motion to approve them if you find them approved. I edit them late this afternoon. Line edit to them. Are you motioning, Veranda?
Yes, I was waiting for you to stop speaking.
Oh, okay.
Are you motioning for one specific set of minutes or both of them?
Whether we could approve both the minutes of the December 14th and the emergency meeting at the same time.
Yes, you may if you so
Okay.
desire.
So,
That is my motion.
do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Michael. Is there any discussion? Okay, I shall take the roll. Veranda,
Aye.
Rusty,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
and Zahn. Zahn was here and now he's gone. I saw Zahn. So are you
He's
there,
here.
Zahn? If you're here, you're on mute. Yeah, I see him. Zahn?
On it was I'm having trouble tonight. I don't know why. Can you hear?
Okay. Do you the motion's
Yeah.
been seconded? I'm taking the vote on the minutes.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. And Richard Wazansky, aye. Thank you. The minutes, both minutes are passed. Peter, do you have a highway update for us?
Yes, I have a very brief highway update for this meeting. I spoke with Dan last week. The road crew has been hauling sand, keeping our roads clear, and repairing lots of equipment. They had quite a few breakdowns during the big snowstorm almost 2 weeks ago and have had to do quite a lot of work to repair this. Of particular note, Dan said the radiator on the grader blew out. Thankfully, though, it was still under warranty through the end of December.
Great. And that's the update?
That's the update. That's all he said. He said they've been
Okay.
spending most of their time repairing equipment when it hasn't been snowing.
Yeah.
And Peter, did he mention anything about damage during the Christmas rainstorm?
I spoke to Dan both on Saturday morning and this morning, and there was no significant damage.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any further discussion about the highway report? All right, moving right along. We're on to new business, the radar speed feedback signs. And Wendy, since you had written, I wonder if you'd be willing to tell us what about this item. Wendy? Says she's here.
I don't think she
Are you
has
may be
her
on mute,
audio.
Wendy. Are you there, Wendy?
Audio.
Wendy, you might be on mute.
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we
Okay,
can.
great.
And we
Sorry.
can see you too.
Yeah. So I asked Karen Murphy to begin our presentation this evening because she's the one that first brought it to GPI for discussion. So Karen,
I'm here. You can hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. This first came to my attention because I have a friend who lives in the Tontine building. She's very elderly, but still quite able. And sometimes, especially when it's not snowing, she would like to go across the street. She used to go across the street and join in church activities, the senior lunch and that kind of thing. Sometimes she needs to go across to the store to buy some staples, and she's slow moving. It's dangerous for her and for others who are in that position. And I know that in 2019, the select board and I believe Peter and VTrans had a meeting and a walkthrough and some other community members. And the state said that they would put up speed signs and pedestrian signs, which they did do. But that's all, which is frustrating because it's a state highway and people zoom right through there. And it's also a place where people are turning on and off onto the center road. And there are no sidewalks, essentially, which also makes it an issue. So the JPI has been discussing how we might remedy this. We have had a consideration about a public-private partnership with us, perhaps with FAB and the town. So now I'm turning it over to Wendy.
okay. So I've been in touch, and I'm going to talk to Ann Ryder more about this, but they are also concerned at the Friends of Algiers. And I have also been in touch with the Wyndham and Windsor housing people because they have a vested interest there in their properties. So I think we have a good shot at putting together some funds on the private side just to encourage the town to put it in the 2022 budget. So that would be our plea. And if Mary Ann is still on, I just wanted her to add a few words about, because she's the one of GPI who's the closest, the most proximate to that
Wendy,
intersection.
Wendy,
Mary Ann, are you on?
Wendy,
Yes.
can you articulate just in a couple of sentences what the proposal is?
Right. Okay.
Including the location and the
Right.
hardware we're talking about?
Right. So we're talking about these signs that tell you how fast you're going. That seems to be the only way that we can go without a lot of permitting on the state side, because it's a state highway. And so we would like to have one northbound and one southbound.
And
That
where
would just
where-
remind people that how fast they were going, because they go through there faster than the 35 miles an hour that they're allowed by the state. So
and
we
where
thought,
would you suggest they be? Where would you suggest they be located?
well, we haven't gotten that super
Okay.
specific, but
But
I
it's
think
about the
definitely.
intersection then, right?
Yeah, right.
Well,
So
Richard,
northbound.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. So there are very specific locations where the radar speed feedback signs have to be located.
Uh-huh.
Because it's a state highway, the state would tell us where they should be located.
Fine. I think we need one southbound and northbound, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And let me just get this straight. So the purpose of these signs would be, these flashing signs that tell you your speed, is to slow down traffic coming basically north and south on Route 5 around the Algiers Center.
Correct.
Okay. Mary Ann, did you want to add?
I would just add that I live on Partridge Road, which is very near the center of Algiers. And just pulling out of our road, sometimes cars are whizzing by at, my guess would be heading for 50 miles an hour, even though the signage is to slow down to 35. So I've been supportive of this initiative ever since Karen brought it up, because I think it would improve pedestrian access. The church, the Windsor and Wyndham and Windsor housing people, Tontine people, and the neighborhood people as well. Access to what is available to us in the village.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Barry, did you want to make a comment? I saw you had your hand up. Barry, are you on mute? Come in, Barry. I guess he's not there. Okay. Thank you for presenting.
Now, do you hear me?
Yes.
Is that Barry?
Oh, I'm off mute.
Okay.
Yeah,
Did
that's
you want
me.
to say something, Barry?
I think you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. I'll go. I have the floor. I better.
You have a couple. You have
I'm
2
on
minutes,
GPI.
Barry. Barry, you have 2 minutes because we're trying to
Okay,
get this.
it won't be that much. I hope. I'm on GPI and Friends of Algiers, and I'm also a very proximate resident on the bottom end of Melody Hill. So I'm on Route 5 all the time, by foot or by bicycle. And obviously, I'm very supportive of this. The other anecdote, the other information I can provide is that when this first came up, we did a little bit of a deeper dive into it, and anecdotally, it has been noted that this is one of the most effective speed reducing measures that can take, that drivers, I think probably all of us know this from our own experiences behind the wheel. When we see that feedback speed thing, we kind of slow down, even those of us who tend to be fast. And I think overall in the literature, it's noted that this is one of the best speed reduction methods you could have, as well as being one of the most inexpensive and not needing permitting and everything else. So I'm really hopeful, for all the reasons that Mary Ann said and Karen, that we could get this moving, because the village center here has increased in foot traffic immensely over the last few years due to the efforts of GPI and Friends of Algiers, the store and the apartment houses. And once COVID is over, we're back into lots of foot traffic that needs to be taken into consideration. safety.
Thank you, Barry.
Or an accident happens.
Thank you. Peter, you've done some research into the cost of these signs.
I have. So there are actually a couple points. I also, when I met with Danny last week, I also wanted to note that Danny is in full support of these signs and putting them up, and he and the road crew would be happy to put them up should the select board decide to purchase them, as well as he would assist me in going through the permit process, particularly for the ones on Route 5. The other point I wanted to note is we have, over the years, we have also had a number of residents express concern about speeding on Guilford Center Road, particularly in the section from Tater Lane down to Weatherhead Hollow Road. And then we've also had complaints, quite a few this year, in fact, of people speeding on Weatherhead Hollow Road as well. Whilst we haven't had them recently, in the past, we've also had complaints of Heinsberg Road. So that's 4 locations in town. So I did meet with Dan, and we talked about, really, there's only one place for us to purchase these signs from. It's from a company that primarily works with municipalities and counties, government throughout the country. So given that, we were quoted, if we were to just purchase the 2, one for north and one for southbound on Route 5, they would be $3,250 each. Plus, we need the mounting equipment for each of them, because the best option for us is to have a solar powered option. So all of that additional equipment would cost $525 per unit. So that would be $7,550 for the 2 units just for Route 5. However, if the town were to consider purchasing units for all 4 locations that were previously mentioned, that they would give us a price reduction both on the individual units of $150 each, and a price reduction on the mounting units of $50 each. And as was discussed in a previous select board meeting, in fact, 2, I believe, the select board has is over budget on their reserve fund for this fiscal year, and has to spend approximately $84,000 out of the reserve fund. So it's in compliance with your own policy. So that is an option for the select board to consider funds that would not negatively impact the budget or taxes on residents.
In the state, even though it's a state highway, the state won't pay for those signs?
Oh, they have flat out refused.
Okay. Does the
multiple
select board,
times, in fact.
Okay. Does the select board have any comments on this or questions? Yes, Russ.
I would do it first to see how they work, instead of buying 4 and then they don't do what their purpose is.
I agree with Rusty. That's
north and south on Route 5 and see how they work first.
Okay. Michael, did you want to say?
I would agree. Okay. I'd like to just try the pair on Route 5 first.
Does anyone else have a comment? Zahn,
I think Zahn had his hand up.
Yes, I just wonder if there's I don't know. Are there any options for, I see them in other towns that are not used all the time. Is the possibility for renting them from other towns or something like that? Would we be free to rent them out to another town for another purpose?
These are permanent. These are not mobile or anything like that. The mobile ones are drastically more expensive, anywhere from $25,000 and up.
Okay.
Randy, did you have a question?
Yes, I think it's a prudent investment, and that, I mean, I'm not sure where Barry got his statistics from about these being an effective intervention, but I take very seriously the safety of the residents and visitors to Algiers. And I guess I would feel comfortable to recommend that we go ahead and buy them, especially because of the deal that we've been offered.
Would you like to make a motion, Veranda?
Availability of reserve.
Miranda, would you like to make a motion?
Well, I don't know
Yeah.
if we're done discussing it.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Yes, Sheila.
So I just wanted to say that I believe even in the road safety audit report that there are, maybe I'm wrong, but I think that there are some studies that say that this is an effective speed control mechanism that we've been considering for 3 years in this town that I remember, and that I think both Rusty and Don, we have the information that would support a full investment at an economical purchase price to the town at this time, at a time when we can afford it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. Peter?
Just briefly, yes, Sheila is absolutely correct. It was noted in the road safety audit that this is very effective, and the state has data from across the state showing that these do work. I did want to note, while I can appreciate where Rusty is coming from, putting the signs up on Route 5 is going to be a bit more of a lengthy process because we have to go through the permit application in order to do that. Whereas all the other roads in town are overseen by the select board, and if the select board makes the decision, can put them up. But we've also had, Sheila can correct me if I'm wrong, at least 3 previous speed studies that were conducted by the state police using similar units to these. They just happen to be mounted on a mobile unit, and they are effective. And the last point to note is that all of these units, we will be able to download the data, so we can take that data and show to the state police, we are having an issue in XYZ area. Here's the data to prove it.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Do I have a motion then?
Yes.
Okay, what is your motion, Veranda?
Okay, I move that we purchase the, let's see, how many of them are there?
There could be 2 or 4.
Oh, I move that we purchase 4 of, wait.
2 or
8. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I need to clarification. It's 8 of them altogether? You mean on both sides?
Yes, correct.
Okay, I move that the select board purchase 8 what are they called?
Radar speed feedback signs.
Radar speed feedback signs. I'm sorry to stumble over
Thank
it.
you, Veranda. Do I have a second?
Might I suggest that Veranda amend her motion to state that those funds should come from the select board reserve fund?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, and that the funds should come from the select board reserve fund.
Do I have a second?
I will.
Okay, Zahn has seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I would rather not buy 8 now. I think I'm in favor of just trying it on Route 5, but so I don't want to say no to buying. I mean, I feel like if I say no to buying 8, then what's the recourse to go back to purchasing
4.
2 or
4. Yes, Peter?
I was
You're
just
in,
saying,
excuse me for a minute, Peter. You're in agreement with Rusty and Michael seem to be in agreement to only buy 4 instead of 8.
so what I wanted to say is that because a motion has been made and seconded, you can have as much discussion as you wish. That's fine. Richard will then need to take a vote on this motion. If it passes, it passes. If it fails, then Michael or Rusty or someone else can make a new motion different from Veranda's.
Okay, but we're still discussing this motion. Is there any further discussion? Okay, I shall take the roll then. Veranda? I'm just want to emphasize this is to purchase, that the township purchase 8 radar speed signs and take that out of the supplemental funds. So that's Veranda said yes. Rusty?
Nay.
Nay. Michael?
Nay.
Zahn?
Nay.
Richard? Nay. Okay, so the motion does not pass. Did you have another motion? Yes, Zahn.
I move that we do everything that Veranda said, except rather than buying 8 of them, we buy 2 of them at this point.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Rusty seconds it. Okay, is there any discussion? All right, I should take the vote.
I guess I'll just throw out. I'm in favor of trying these out, and I think Route 5 is a great place to start. I am a little just concerned about the light pollution potentially, and the locations of these, and maybe Peter can speak to that. Do we have any assurances that these won't be like flashing in somebody's house?
So all of these signs, I phoned the company because there are a number of these signs that are manufactured that are not legal, both from the federal government or from the state government. So I checked with the company to make sure that the models that they were quoting us for were legal, both with the Federal Department of Transportation as well as with VTrans. And so these models are, as part of that, prohibits the use of the flashing lights. So what
these are not a flashing light type?
So the numbers will flash if you are over the speed, but there are no additional flashing lights, which we often see. Those models are technically illegal.
Can I? You made the motions on? Could you include in your motion where the location where those should be?
And then
you want them on Route 5 north and south, right?
Yes, specifically for Route 5. And then I do have another issue.
Okay. Yes.
And that's that. I'm not sure I understand. Are we moving and voting to purchase these now, irrespective of any budgeting, or are we voting to budget them for another year? Because if we're voting to budget them in another year, I could imagine myself wanting to think about purchasing more of them for another year. If there's a way we can purchase these now and put them into, I guess our fiscal year is January. Was that right, Peter?
No, it's June 30th.
June 30th.
All the more reason. I don't want to tie us down to only being able to purchase 2 of these for the next year and a half, if these happen to work.
But you just voted to not buy 8.
I understand it differently now.
Oh, I see. So,
well, there was also a slight contradiction in the last motion where Zahn seconded the motion and then voted against it later on.
Well, that's only it's only to get it on the table.
Okay.
Get it on the table.
I have a question for Rusty. Rusty, yes. You're on mute.
You're muted, Rusty.
What will prevent us from getting more if we wanted to out of our budget? There's nothing to say that we can't take it out of that budget later on, is there?
I don't think so.
Okay,
so
good.
Why not do 2? And then if they work really well, we'll buy the next ones later.
Yeah. Yes, Peter. We have
What's going to define working?
We have to move along on our agenda. So let's make our comments concise, please. Yes, Peter.
What's going to define working well or not working well, and who's going to make that judgment?
Didn't you say there's data that comes out of those?
Yes, there is.
So couldn't we use that as a tool?
Sure, but we have to define what that means. And I think Sheila has something to say.
One empirical proof will be whether the traffic slows down there. I mean, that seems to me to be the
That's going to be purely anecdotal, Richard, because you're not going to be measuring the distance, the speed between signs. You're going to be measuring the speed at which somebody enters from either direction, but you're going to have no measure of the speed between each sign. So
correct.
You're not assessing data at that level. What the data that you would be assessing is the data that surveys and studies have already done. to Rusty's question. To Zon's question, this is not a budget issue. You're talking about taking it out of our reserve, so we're not budgeting town tax money at this point going forward to buy these things.
And it's money that we have to expend.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start. Who made that motion? Rusty, wasn't it you, or is it Zon?
I made it.
Would you restate it, please?
I move that we purchase 2 radar speed feedback signs to be used specifically north and south on Route 5.
Okay, do I have a second? Is that
I second
you said? Okay, it's second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, we'll take the vote again. Veranda?
Aye.
Rusty?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Zon?
Aye.
Richard? Aye. The motion carries unanimously. There you go. Okay, yay for Route 5.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you
on
very
to the
much.
next thing, Recreation Commissioner appointment. Does someone want to speak to that, or?
Oh,
I
yes.
can
well,
briefly, or Veranda can, doesn't matter.
Well, I'm the liaison to the Rec
Go for it.
Commission. We're very lucky that Mary Wallace Collins wants to be on the Rec Commission, and you've seen her resume. I mean, she's incredible and highly motivated.
Would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I move that we welcome Mary Wallace Collins as a new Recreation Commissioner.
Do I have a second?
Appoint.
I'm sorry, appoint.
I'll second.
Okay, is there any further discussion? I would like to say, I mean, her resume is stunning, and I think we're very lucky to have a woman of her enthusiasm and skill on the commission. So I think that's great. Okay, so there's no further discussion. Veranda, we're voting on the motion. Rusty,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Richard, aye. Very good. Mary Wallace Collins will be appointed to the Recreation Committee. Thank you very much. Okay, Front Porch Forum and Gazette funding increases. We had discussed this at the budget meeting not long ago. As I recall, we wanted to raise the town's contribution to these very vital communication resources, and which particularly align with the Select Board's goal of communicating more with our townspeople. So from my point of view, it's a very good suggestion. I can't remember the exact amount that we want. I know that we want to decrease from to 2. Peter?
Currently, the town supports Front Porch Forum at $50 per year. There was discussion of increasing that by $25, as well as the town supports the Gazette at $100 a year, and there was discussion of increasing that to $150.
Okay. Do I hear a motion in that regard?
I so move.
Okay. Is there a second? Zon seconds it. Is there any discussion? Okay, I shall take the roll. Veranda.
Aye.
Rusty.
Aye.
Michael.
Aye.
Zon.
Aye.
Richard. Aye. So that motion carries unanimously. I think that's a very good thing that we've done. And thank you very much, Select Board Gentles, for approving that increase in the town's ability to communicate with each other. Okay, so next is the policy or procedure on annual employee raises. We read the suggestions from the VLCT, which were basically, as I can summarize for a moment, to hire a consultant, compensation consultant, or to, there are two that stand in my mind, or to pin raises on a criterion, which could be the COLA that's used from the Social Security monthly payments. And I'm just interested, is there any discussion or any questions or comments on it? I don't know if we can solve this issue tonight, but I think that we could have a discussion about it.
I think using the COLA as a basis would be a good thing. We don't have to follow it. Is that me? As a total guideline, but that would be a good guideline to start the raises, I think.
Okay. And the VLCT consultant that wrote us told us that even though if we put that into the personnel policy, we wouldn't have to do that every time, and there would also be an addition, and also there would be room for performance raises if that were happening. So, any other select board comments?
No.
No. Okay. Sheila, did you want to say something? Yes, Sheila.
Yeah. Okay. So we talked about this several years ago, and I think COLA is traditionally less than the 3% that the town has given on a regular basis, not consistently, but that if you were to go with COLA as a matter of policy, in addition to the fact that, as Peter often says, our wages in this town are generally lower than those in other parts of the state, that we would have, to say the least, unhappy town staff. And that there have been times when we didn't want to do 3% because we felt it was fiscally irresponsible. And we went lower, and we were able to convey the message that it was appropriate at that time in terms of our fiscal responsibility to the town residents to go lower. There was also a time when we were able to go higher to 5%. But I think if you make it a policy that it's just going to be COLA, which is a pretty unreliable indicator of expenses in life in general, we're going to have a lot of people who are really unhappy in Guilford. Done.
Zahn?
So as Sheila's talking, I'm thinking that while I think COLA is a great base or a floor to use, perhaps it does provide some consistency rather than a feeling of we don't know what's going to happen. At least they would know that would be the case. That's not necessarily making friends. But I think part of this discussion, if we were going to do anything different, we'd need to understand what Peter tells us that the salaries are lower in Guilford than they are in other parts of the state. I have no understanding of what that means. And I'd be willing to put in some energy to learn from VLCT, for instance, what average salaries are. And maybe we could make a mindset about moving toward that. That could be a goal that we could set that might help us frame the yearly changes in a different light than just COLA.
Yeah, and there is the VLCT did do a compensation study, which the consultant from VLCT suggested that we should look at before we made any decisions. So okay. I mean,
and VLCT has been doing that for many years.
I haven't had a chance to look at that study, but this conversation was generated from our conversation I think it was at the budget meeting, that we were looking for a standard to base salary increases on. And I think it is a good idea to have a standard to use myself. I'm not sure what the standard should be. I know in my career, where I worked for 22 years, it was based on the COLA. And it was also based, and in addition, you were eligible for a performance raise. And so if you combine the two, I worked with mostly people who were pretty happy about their compensation. Yes, Son.
Well, Rusty has a point, I think.
I thought that was okay. Yes, Rusty.
My hand is up too, but I think Rusty's was up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Rusty. You're on mute, Rusty. You're on mute.
I was just going to say, did we were just going to use that as a reference anyway, or was that going to be hard? That's what it is. Or they can do like we did after so many years, like you've been there 5 years, you go up another step, like they said in that thing. You could do it that way also to
Yeah.
compensate.
How
For
about
years'
this? Why
work.
don't we, could we form a little compensation committee to look at this subject, and then the committee comes back with a recommendation to the select board? Seems to me, either one or two recommendations, preferably one. But I think that would be the sanest way and the most organized way of doing this. Do I have any volunteers for the compensation committee? Don, Rusty, okay. How about, and can I join you?
Please.
Okay. All right, very
All right, so we just come into a difficulty when we have three members on a committee. Then you have to, in order for your discussions to occur, you have to have warned public meetings. That's why committees in the past have always been two select board members.
Okay, so there you go. We have two select board members, Rusty and Zahn. Okay, Sheila, did you have something?
I wonder if Sheila would be willing to talk with them, or join them.
So I was going to offer somebody from the Finance Advisory Committee to participate in this.
Okay, good. That would be good. Very good.
Not on the move.
Okay, so we'll look, Zahn?
Just to be clear, I'd be happy to follow Rusty if you want to call us together. That'd be great. Since you're on the finance committee as well.
Yes, I am.
So maybe you could serve as the liaison with Sheila and figure that out. And then
Okay. And Rusty, can we hold it to you to be the organizer of this committee? In other words,
Okay.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Very good. I think that's a good solution. A communication plan for town meeting day 2021 and the Australian ballot is our next item on the agenda. I can say that I am writing an article for the Guilford Gazette, which will have all of the facts that I know about the Australian ballot, and I'm judging that because I took the workshop. I have all of the VLCT important fact sheets about it, and Penny and Peter will review it. So that's one. I think that's a very large piece of the communication plan, and we can take pieces of that, the pieces of it, which are, for instance, that I'm just giving you some examples, and I'll be very brief here. But that there's going to be an informational meeting, when that information meeting will be, that people have to request the ballot, that they're not going to be sent out, that there's going to be a polling place at the Broadbrook Community Center on March 2nd, and so forth and so on. So those are the kinds of very important pieces of information that our voters are going to need to have that will be in the Gazette article. But what I'm suggesting is that we can take pieces of that and put it in other places, like on our website and on Front Porch Forum. So that's part of that would be certainly part of the plan.
Mm-hmm. And will we be collaborating with the Grange? Do they have a plan for some altered version of their traditional pre-town meeting?
No, we're going to have an informational meeting, it's called an informational meeting, and it's going to be remote. These are all from the legislation that the state legislature just adopted.
So the Grange isn't going to.
No, the Grange, the Broadbrook Community Center will be the polling place where people can drop off their ballots, but we are encouraged to encourage our voters not to vote in person, but to drop off ballots or mail ballots. And that will all be in the information that I'm putting in the Gazette article. And it all follows the legislation, the COVID legislation, basically, trying to prevent people from congregating without social distancing. So it's vote safe, be safe. Oh, I like that. Maybe we should have our communications plan under that umbrella. Okay. You like that, Sheila? Good.
That's a good one, Richard.
Let me write that down before I forget it.
I forget it.
Does anybody have any suggestions now for further? So what we're saying is there's a major article about all the facts coming out in the Gazette. We'll take those and put them on the website, the town website, and we'll put and we will need to do repetitive warnings. And we'll warn the informational meeting for sure and make an announcement about that. And we will advertise it continuously in any way we can.
Would there be any interest in using the town highway sign to
Yes,
flash that? I really feel like that's a good way to reach people.
absolutely. So that would be a good place to put it too, particularly about the informational meeting and vote safe, be safe. So Peter, did you want to add to that?
Oh, I think I wanted to comment on what I think Veranda was asking. The Broadbrook Grange can still have pre-town meeting as long as it's held remotely. However, by switching to the Australian ballot, the select board is mandated by state law to hold their own warned informational meeting. So that has to be, because the pre-town meeting in Guilford is hosted and sponsored by the Broadbrook Grange, there has to be a separate additional meeting aside from that, sponsored by the select board.
But the informational meeting is serving the same purpose as that.
Of course.
Meeting did. Yeah.
Has anybody already reached out to the Broadbrook Grange to let them, just to discuss this and let them know what our plans are?
I can do that.
Or I'll be happy to do it if you want me to.
Yeah, I have heard nothing, or Peter, you have heard nothing, and certainly Sarah knows what the legislation did. We're just following the legislation.
No, I can just talk to Don about it.
Okay, very good. Anything further
I'll
to
do
say?
that.
Thank you, Veranda.
How are we going to request the ballot? Do you call the town hall?
Yes, you can call, you can write, you can email, or you can request it in person at the town office.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. And that's what and we're going to tell the voters that that's how they have to do it. Any other questions or comments?
It's
Excelente.
curious that they're not just sending it to all the voters.
Yeah, no, I was a little mixed up and I thought that we could do that, but we can't. It's not in the legislation.
Too bad.
Yep. Dog complaint, Peter.
Yes. So as the select board knows, we had another dog complaint. And so with that, both Richard Davis, our health officer, and I both attempted to follow up to get more information for the select board investigation into this complaint from the complainants. And in brief, have had little or no response from the complainants. Because of this, I did reach out. So I've had no response whatsoever. Richard Davis did have a very brief phone call so he could file a health report and basically was given a one-sentence reply and not any additional information. So it was insufficient to file a health report. Because of this, I did contact VLCT as far as their recommendations, what should be done. Their recommendation was for the select board to hold a dog hearing, as it is one last and final public opportunity for the complainant to make themselves heard. Should the complainant not appear at the dog hearing, that gives the select board grounds to drop the complaint. And it's because it's public, then the complainants cannot say that the select board did not give them an opportunity to say their piece.
So Peter, when would we have to have this hearing?
The sooner the better.
Can we combine it with a select board meeting?
It would have to either precede or post-seed a select board meeting. It could not happen during a select board meeting because it's considered a quasi-judicial hearing. And so it is a separate event and it has to be warned separately.
So what if we did this hearing and had it at 6 p.m. on a night that the select board was meeting? I'd
be in favor of that.
Yeah. Does that go with Rusty? Are you, yes, you're nodding yes. Okay, so let's do that, Peter.
Okay, because it is a dog hearing, we need a select board member to make a motion to hold the dog hearing and the date and time in which you want to hold it, and then I will take the necessary legal actions to get that happening.
Thank you. Does someone want to make a motion? I'm happy to make it. If were you just? I move that we hold a dog hearing on the complaint under consideration at this time, and that we want the select board to have it at our next select board meeting. Let's get
Yes.
it over with. Yes. So that would be at our next select board meeting, which is
January 11th.
January 11th at 6 p.m. And that the town administrator will administer the appropriate protocols.
I second it.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Wonderful. Miranda,
Aye.
Rusty,
Aye.
Michael,
Hi.
Don,
Hi.
Richard. Aye. Thank you. That was done with good expeditiously. All right, on to updates. Well, I think Peter is probably typing that motion up. Do you want to start on the update on the DVFiber, Zon? Is there something to update us?
Yeah, I'll be very quick if I can be. Just want to let you know that since the last time we reported, we're now up to 20 towns in the district. Newfane just joined after 3 just prior to that. So there's also there's a conversation going on now with the Southern Vermont district, looking at possibilities for collaboration and future. It's not clear what that all means, but we're talking with about 15 other towns on the west side of the state as well. There was a poll study that had been contracted for 3 towns surrounding Reedsboro. That poll study, which is just a study of every single physical pole to see what it can bear, what its capacities are. That poll study has been done in preparation for being able to lay fiber onto it in those 3 towns. We'll get a complete report about that later. The next step after that then is presumably would be to get a poll study done in all 20 towns, so that they would be done in all 20 towns. And then if there would be a mapping study that would lay on top of that would show us all the different kinds of services that are currently in place and how the polls can support that. And put those 2 together, we begin to understand.
Wow.
Put things together. The last thing I want to talk about is this big, huge, monstrous federal program called an RDOF auction. Maybe some of you have heard of that. It's a rural delivery. It happened 10 years ago. Basically, it's a reverse auction where the federal government will agree to the lowest bidder who wants to bid on certain areas to promise to commit to provide service within 6 years. There was a big, huge project 10 years ago that went to VIII, which has come out. It was a complete disaster.
Yeah.
It didn't work. The state has been now constrained by this federal government granting of these dollars to VIII has made it impossible for lots of other work to happen. The same kind of auction just happened again, and we've got the results. And it's interesting. It will probably inform some of our next steps as we go forward. There's nothing really overview conclusive to say about it one way or the other. It's just that the federal government is speaking to, I look forward to the day when these CUDs are going to be more powerful, because the federal government now has to speak to corporate concerns, because those are the only ones who have the capacity to bid at this point in this
Right.
RDOF auction. Eventually, the CUD, like north of us, there's a CUD that has 25 towns, and that entire CUD got that portion of the RDOF money coming down. It's a big deal if we could get it. We're not there, so that's still 10 years out. That's it.
Thanks.
That's all I want to say.
Thanks, Zon.
Moving forward.
The progress is being made slowly, I guess. Is there any questions or comments for Zon?
Yeah.
Okay, Peter, you're up with the COVID. I
This will be short.
That, the report.
This is just will be short and sweet. Vermont cases have hit what they're calling a plateau over the past about week to 10 days, which from the Department of Health is a very positive sign. Despite this, the meeting last Wednesday, both the Department of Health and the state EOC both expressed a lot of concern about the potential for a spike in cases due to the holiday season and people feeling cooped up and not able to see friends and family. Sadly, as with the rest of the country, Vermont has seen a dramatic spike in deaths in the past couple of weeks. So as of at the end of last week, we were at 107. I don't know if that has changed over the weekend any. And as always, please remember to maintain your social distancing when you're not in your own home, or and wear your masks and wash your hands frequently, please.
Thank you, Peter. Are there any communications?
I have no communications this week. Your action summary from your previous meeting was the Select Board adopted Australian ballot for town meeting day 2021. Informally agreed to 3 different means of townwide communication relating to COVID. Informally agreed that the road crew should continue plowing the community center and begin plowing the playscape. Moved to send a letter of support to the Deerfield River Watershed Association on the National Wild and Scenic River designation they are pursuing. Moved to transfer commission reserve balances to their respective reserve funds. Moved to retain the Guilford Volunteer Fire Department capital funds in the Select Board capital fund and budget. Moved to fund each of the 4 town commissions 50% from their reserve funds and 50% through annual appropriations for fiscal year 22. Moved to discontinue law enforcement services with the Vermont State Police for FY22 and reevaluate later next year. Moved to have a 3% salary increase for employees for FY22 and tabled 2 updates till the next meeting. Actions taken in this meeting are purchase of 2 radar speed feedback signs for use on Route 5 on the north and south ends of the village, Algiers Village. Appointed Mary Collins to the Recreation Commission, increased annual support to Front Porch Forum and the Gazette. Zahn and Rusty are to review and make recommendations on personnel pay increases. And the Select Board moved to hold a dog hearing on the 11th of January for the situation on Great Blue Heron Drive.
Thank
And
you.
I will get back to, I'll contact Don McLean.
Oh, yeah, Ron's going to
What the
contact Don.
Broadbrook Grange plans are.
And I just want to say before I acknowledge Sheila's hand up in the air that, I mean, you can't say that we're not working, guys and gals. I mean, that's a lot of work that we've done. Those are a lot of actions. It's good. Yes, Sheila.
So I think that 2 things. One is a question, an observation, which I think that you haven't actually authorized the payment of to the Front Porch Forum that's in the budget. You've approved it for the budget proposal that is going to be voted on in town meeting. That's number 1. My second question is nobody getting paid this week? I mean, why are there no warrants? I don't get that.
The office has been closed.
So briefly, at the last week, the Select Board held an emergency Select Board meeting because of potential COVID contamination of the town offices, and as such, I and the assistant treasurer were not able to complete the main warrants for the Select Board meeting tonight, and the Select Board chair had been forewarned about that, as well as due to that situation, payroll has not been processed for this week and will hopefully be processed tomorrow.
Another victim of the COVID. Did I see a hand?
Yes. So
Are you
just
making a motion?
No, just a question. I just don't know. A question. I'm sorry. So if the payroll will be paid, that's correct?
Yes. So the way that the Select Board changed things quite a few years ago, before I even came to the town, is that the treasurer and the town administrator have the authority to conduct weekly payroll. And that is to be retroactively approved by the Select Board at each Select Board meeting.
All right.
So that's how the short version of how it works.
And then what
Thank
about
you.
the warrants? No warrants can be paid. The other warrants cannot be paid until we meet, or
That is correct.
all right.
Yeah.
Do we need to, sorry, Richard, do we need to authorize Richard to call us together quickly for an authorization, or can it wait?
It can wait. So as with most people's personal bills, most of our bills are, due every 30 days. Some are slightly different than that. And overall, we will be within that 30-day. We won't have any late bills. And as well with your personal bills, there's generally a grace period of 3 days to a week. And so we should be fine for the next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you. A motion to adjourn?
Sure.
Okay, do I have a second? Miranda, are there any discussion? Questions? I'll take the roll. Miranda?
Aye.
Rusty?
Aye.
Michael?
Hi.
Zahn?
Aye.
Richard? Aye. Thank you very much.